Welcome to the Engineering Influence Podcast from the American Council of Engineering Companies, coming to you from our 2025 Fall Conference in beautiful San Diego, California. And one thing that this has been, it's been a conference that's focused on two things: technology and people. And you can't have one without the other. Really, in this fast-paced world that we live in, technology is driving the industry, but you need the people to actually put that technology to good use. And to really focus in on that, I'm very, very pleased to be joined by Eric Rensel. He is a member of the Workforce Committee. He is also, you were on the ground floor of the EWC as well.
I was, yeah. I was part of the original group signing the MOU.
So the Engineering Workforce Consortium, if you're not completely knowledgeable of that, that is really a group effort here. We're doing it with ACEC, APWA, kind of as the steering committee, but then we have a group from really private, public education, everybody trying to come together and tackle the workforce issue itself. Not exactly a small challenge. You know, we were talking to Joe Bates from the Institute not too long ago, and the workforce study that's coming out from their firm, the Future Project. Workforce is going to be a challenge that is not going anywhere anytime fast. You know, give us a little bit of update what's happening on the Workforce Committee, the work that you guys are doing, and, you know, really just how we're tackling this both through the committee and the consortium.
Yeah, well, first, Jeff, thanks for having me on the podcast. I really appreciate the opportunity to be here. It's
Absolutely.
Great to contribute to something that I think is a absolutely critical national dialogue that we have. And I've been really encouraged about what I've seen here during the annual convention in terms of focus on workforce development. Particularly yesterday, the Workforce Committee had, I think, a really good discussion about the topic. I was proud to participate in the conversation. In addition to my role as a member organization of ACEC, I also represent the Institute of Transportation Engineers, or ITE, for external workforce development issues. We'll talk about that in context of EWC in a minute. But here, as far as the ACEC goes, I tell you what I've seen overall is a lot of dedicated people to making a difference.
Yeah.
And, you know, when you get a lot of really intelligent, motivated people together, kicking ideas around, you're bound to come up with something that really makes a difference. And so I would say overall, I'm really encouraged about what I've seen here.
It's definitely one of our key focus areas. You know, getting the EWC started was a big focus for our CEO, but then just investing in the Workforce Committee, building that out, creating the Playbook that we announced over the conference. Maybe speak to that a little bit and how that's going to inform some of the work to arm some of our member organizations with the tools necessary to kind of take this to the states.
What I'm really impressed about is the depth of the content in the Playbook. You know, it covers everything really from you know, the beginning of an idea that you might want to go on to be an engineer to being somebody who's ready to retire and pass on that legacy. But that doesn't mean it's light on content. I think it has a lot of great ideas, proven strategies, and that's the thing that sets it apart from some other things that I've seen, is that proven strategies that member organizations can take today and implement at their company. So very thoughtful, but also tactical.
One of the challenges we had early on, we identified early, was the fact that, you know, there's no central repository for a lot of this information. Firms are going and trying to do their own recruitment in their own way, and everybody's kind of doing their things, but nobody's actually collected all that information. And the one thing I think the Playbook does well is take best practices from different organizations among the states, and then also different organizations outside of ACEC, as well as tried and true, you know, guidance, and bring it together to make it accessible for everybody.
You know, I think that's to me, that speaks to leadership, right? And I think that ACEC, in really spearheading the formation of the Engineering Workforce Consortium, if I could broaden the term Playbook beyond the document that was just released, that's part of the Playbook too, is coalition building. And I think it's this recognition, whether you're, you know, an ACEC private or an ACEC member organization, whether you're a public agency, right? There are things that we want to do to, you know, be part of our brand and recruit people to want to work for our organization.
Yeah.
But I think informing the EWC and what's in the Playbook, it recognizes that sure, drawing people into our individual organizations is important, but there's a higher order need, and that's to draw people into our industry.
Yeah. And I think that's the big change in mindset, right? Of course, association membership is critically important. We want people to join into our organizations. But at the same time, we've actually taken an industry look now. We're actually focused on how do we actually get people into our industries, whether it's the consulting industry or whether it's the public utilities industry, and how do we, rising tide lifts all boats mindset, which I think is the most important thing to really address the workforce shortage.
Yeah, that was what compelled ITE to join the Engineering Workforce Consortium, frankly, because, of course, being a transportation organization, we talk about on-ramps for people to get into our industry, right? Whether when you're in junior high school that that's what you want to do, or maybe you didn't figure that out till you were 30 years old.
Yeah.
We want you in to our industry, and we want you to be a contributor, right? Because we all know the value that engineers, in the case of IT, transportation professionals bring to the built environment. But we don't always get that word out there the right way or as strongly as we could.
And it's just that visibility. I was thinking and talking to a previous guest that, who's really engaged with mentoring and mentorship, that unlike other professions, you don't turn on the television. You're going to turn on the television, you're going to see a legal drama. You're going to see some kind of a medical drama. You're going to see something of another profession that's really highly promoted, but you don't turn on the television and see a show about engineers. So the exposure is not really there. And it's incumbent upon industry and associations like ours to get that message out, that engineering, public works, the things that actually make society run, it's a noble profession.
Yeah, that was one of the things that came up first in our workforce committee yesterday was about rebranding.
Yeah.
Right? And as I said, a comment I made is that even when I started in this field, it was not ethical to put the name of your company on the side of a vehicle.
Yeah.
Right? And we were trained in school that, when you're supporting a public agency, when an elected official steps forward to, celebrate something that's being done, you step back.
Yeah.
Right? That's really was the message.
And that's been baked in. It's that, in the life cycle of a project, the work that the engineer does is so early, it's before anything really goes vertical, right? But it enables that entire project, and that small, the spend at the beginning influences the entire project life cycle, but it's not seen.
Yeah.
If it's done well, it's never seen. And it's hard to show the invisible.
Yeah, the only time you're typically going to see an engineer on TV is when there's a crisis.
Exactly. Yeah.
And that's something we have to change. And I think that the playbook, I think the work that's being done by ACEC through the Workforce Development Committee and the Engineering Workforce Consortium, there's a concerted effort to change that mindset.
Yeah, and we're trying to do that. I mean, tied in with the EWC is the Engineering Public Works Roadshow, trying to get out there and demonstrate the value of good public works. The events that we've held with students, you can kind of see them light up, and kind of it connects in their minds what that work means. The other part is just, getting out there and just explaining the essentiality, and I think this is something that is found with the workforce study that we're going to be coming out with, is the idea that, people who are coming in to the industry or the future next generation want to have that value behind the work that they do. They want to have a benefit. They want to contribute more than just to the economy, but to society. It's a perfect profession for doing that.
I agree, and you can look at that from a couple of different ways. First, of course, in childhood education, many member organizations and engineers, across industry are proud of engagement with STEM activities, and we should keep doing that.
Yeah.
But we shouldn't be shy about highlighting the value of the E in STEM.
Exactly.
And I think that we've diluted the message somewhat, and haven't done ourselves enough. Enough justice to really emphasize the E among science, technology, and math. And the way you can get in, where you start salary-wise, career opportunities later. And then I think in mid-career, it's kind of about fighting a stereotype, which is if you didn't initially go to college and get that 4-year engineering degree when you were 20, 23 years old, that you can never get in.
Exactly.
And that's just not the answer. That's not the truth.
Yeah, especially these days. I mean, especially now with the rampant advancement of technologies. The fact is the firm of 10 years from now is not going to look like anything we have now. The computer fields, the software fields, the AI, of course, but then drone operators, the people who are using applying the technologies to support licensed engineers. There's a whole realm of field open to people who don't have a traditional engineering degree to be part of the industry and contribute to it and be compensated very well for doing it.
But Jeff, we have a pattern for this. Some folks like to pretend like we've never done this before. When I was coming out of school was when CAD was really becoming the normal, right? Prior to my I graduated in 2000, okay?
Yep, as did I, so we're
prior
same
to me,
line.
There, at the large firm that I worked at, there was an army of draftsmen, right? And that slowly changed, and what we saw was an adaptation to train people on computer skills, to be able to take the knowledge that they had as really assistant engineers and apply that through the CAD, right? And so we're an industry that's about adaptation. We've done that for the entire existence of engineering. There's no reason to think that we are not ready for the challenge now.
And if you're out there and you're studying, computer science, or you're a data person, one of the things I talked to a firm about not too long ago was how they're structuring their firm to have these project teams that you have your licensed engineers, you have your sole technical people who are doing the engineering work, but then you have this backfill of data specialists and people who are managing the data, because data is going to be king, and whoever owns and manages that data appropriately is going to win. So they have this entire structure of non-engineers who are there specifically to support all of the data stuff and using all the AI tools and manipulating all that stuff so that the firm works in a new way. So if you're out there and you're working in this stuff, it's a perfect opportunity to join the industry.
I can speak to that from my personal experience, Jeff, because 2.5 years ago, I transitioned from a large firm to starting my own company. And the first year was all about getting my feet under me and getting organized. And Jeff, when it came time to hire my first employee, do you know what I hired?
Who?
Somebody with a master's degree in information systems and an undergraduate in computer science. You know why? Because no matter what project I work on, it comes down to data stored in disparate systems that need to be brought together to create new insights. So I know, as I'm starting my small business, I have almost 30 years of engineering experience. I need somebody who's just as powerful in data integration.
Yeah, exactly. And that's going to become more important. And while data, AI, all that's going to create efficiencies, you're going to need the workforce to actually apply that technology. And that's just one of many avenues that's open to us. We do need, as an industry, to take advantage of that and evangelize. To your point, we need to step from that shadow. We need to step from the background into the light. It's interesting whenever we do these roadshow events and we have the engineers who worked on the projects, and we actually have had situations where engineers on significant projects, bridges in Miami, we have important infrastructure, and they come to us after and they say, this is the first time I've been publicly recognized for my work. Stuff that is going to support billions of dollars of economic activity, support the safety and welfare of sometimes millions of people, and they don't get the recognition that they should. And it's not going to come naturally. You got to step forward and actually take it.
I mentioned a few minutes ago that throughout the course of the history of engineering, we've shown our ability to adapt. We've also shown at times that we will resist that change until the last possible minute. I think what's important for us to recognize at this time is that rate of acceptance, the curve, if you will, it's shortening and it's sharpening. And I think that it's not a time to resist that change. It's time to step forward and lead, because engineers also show that we lead things.
Yeah, absolutely.
And just one more point to what you said there is that That's where I think the workforce issue overall ties into a lot of other topical areas that ACEC is focused on, because whether we're talking about value and a value agenda and protecting quality-based selection and things like that, we want to be able to bring our creativity and our ingenuity to our end to solve engineering problems. Yes, we might have new tools in the toolbox to do that, but that doesn't mean that the creativity of the people working on an industry is any less.
Oh no, if not, it's more. It's more, and to your point, to extend on that, it's value not just in QBS, it's not just value in selection, but it's also value in pricing.
Absolutely.
Which is critically important, because the threat is always, when you have a tool like AI come out, the threat is commoditization.
Right.
And we have to fight against that, because the value that engineers bring has always been the intellectual power of their talent, but then also the ability to apply innovative solutions to very complex challenges that a machine cannot do. And that value has to be seen throughout their marketing, through the project selection, and how they position themselves. It is a trusted advisor relationship, and we can't dilute that.
Absolutely. I spoke to somebody here during the show that said, they were working for a client that said, oh, well, you're probably using AI now, so you're going to reduce my fee, right?
No.
What we want the question to be is, how much more creativity are you going to be able to bring to my project?
Yeah. It's anticipating things. It's actually, no, it's not a question of lowering your fee, but we'll lower your overall project cost, because we're going to create efficiencies along the way.
Or improve your value.
Or improve your value,
Right.
or find a solution that you weren't thinking of, or address an issue that you weren't considering in the first master plan. And we just need to stay with that.
That's right. I agree with you.
Yeah, absolutely. Great event, great conference, workforce, big part of it. What do you have next on the workforce committee? What are we looking forward to?
We're going to be looking forward to the next Engineering Workforce Consortium Summit, which will be held again next April.
Yep.
With the member organizations of that. And there's some work to do. You come out of a conference like this and other chances you get to interact with things, and you're full of ideas.
Yeah.
There's so many great conversations that take place that video calls can't really replace, from an in-person standpoint. But you got to come away, you got to filter those down to the most salient points. I think, clearly on the workforce front, there's a lot of momentum. I've seen a lot of great, products and things being created by ACEC organizations across the country. I think it's bringing some of those to the national spotlight and letting them shine. I think it's also about, there's a thread there about what do we do for mid-career professionals? How do we keep them from leaving once we got them in, right? So there's that. And, I think there's some other opportunities there. So we're going to build towards that next summit and, really try to get ourselves in a spot where we're ready to take action.
Fantastic. Well, there's going to be a lot to do. The work does not stop on this issue. So, Eric, I do appreciate the time that you've taken with us, and look forward to working with you in the months to come, because I'm going to be busy.
Absolutely, Jeff. Again, thanks for having me here.
Absolutely. And again, this has been Engineering Influence podcast from the American Council of Engineering Companies. See you next time.